Hey, this is Brian from Wright 732. And I'm sitting here in my backyard. It's Memorial Day weekend. That's why I'm not coming to you from, the office or the gym, because I'm actually off today, which is rare. I'm not really off because I'm still working, obviously. I'm getting stuff done here. I want to just kind of get into something that I got into last night. I had a bunch of people over my house, and, I had some friends and family, and there were some people that were talking about the job market and what schools to go to and all these kinds of things. And we got into it a little bit about stuff because I have a different point of view than some people do. And it was just, the conversation was going along the lines of what school you go to, how much it matters on where your opportunities are going to come from and where you're going to go in life. And I was just kind of like, it really depends on what you're going to do that school even matters. And I threw out there that college debt, that's outstanding right now is greater than outstanding credit card debt, and that's a huge bubble that's going to pop. And then one of the biggest issues we've got is that people are not getting in touch with, their inner qualities enough to understand what they really want to do or the direction they want to go in life, and they're running into education, think it's going to be the answer for everything, and they're acquiring debt that they're not going to be able to get a job that's going to be able to pay for their debt, plus be able to afford them any kind of lifestyle that's really worth the hustle that's going to be required to be successful and, working for somebody else. And, they're all getting into it as like, education, your school, it's so important, it really matters. And, they're seeing kids now coming out of school and getting jobs and whatever. And I'm like, okay, if you want to be a teacher, you got to go to school. If you want to be in finance, you have to go to school. If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an architect. There are certain jobs out there that require education. And then there are other jobs that don't really require education. You've got a lot of people coming out of school with communications degrees, marketing degrees, liberal arts, whatever degrees that are coming out, and there's not that many opportunities for them to apply what they learned in college, and they're really not going to learn anything until they get into the workforce. And there's the one thing when it comes to, hardcore results-driven work, any legit entrepreneurial leader really doesn't care where you come from. They care that you're going to be able to further the cause. If you're going to be able to get information out in a way that's going to increase the bottom line and increase the growth and development of a company, no one's going to say no to you because you have an inferior education or, you didn't go to college because you wanted to get real working experience. So unless you're going into a specialized field that demands education, I would really advise you to take the time before you go and take out a student loan and invest your time and your future earnings into this piece of paper that may not fit into what you're trying to do. You got to sit back and you've got to say, is this the appropriate time for me? Schools will be here forever. You can always go to school, but you're only going to be young once, and you're only going to have the opportunity to start yourself off once. And one of the main points that, people don't really want to hear, and it's sad, is because they're old and they're broken, and they think the system is okay. The sad thing now is, and I think it's always been this way, but I think the divide's getting a little bit worse because the economics of education are so much greater today than they were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. When I graduated college, we didn't have online courses. I'm sorry, I have to go back on that. When I graduated high school, I'm a person that never graduated from college. When I graduated from high school, we didn't have online courses. We didn't have really the digital world. I graduated high school in 1992. I honestly don't remember when I first got on the internet, but it was definitely after my college years. It was mid to late 90s before I got into any of that. I didn't even have a cell phone when I graduated from high school. So, we're sitting there and we're talking, and the one thing I talk about a lot with people I work with is, as we get older, the one thing we have to be is not the old person who, craps on everything that young people are doing or tries to further, older ways. It's we have to, take the knowledge that we've got, and we've got to respect the new mediums of today, and we've got to respect the mindset of the youth of today, because they're the ones that are in the struggle, and hammering down our ideas down their throats is not the best way to go about stuff in an evolutionary process. So, for me, I really want to be the person to kid in high school or someone heading off into college that I didn't have. When was the last time someone asked a 16-year-old, what do they really want? And, I call it DNA. I call it that internal instinct. I call it your natural born skills, that we all have inclinations of being proficient at certain things. It doesn't mean we know exactly what we want to do, but some people like to work with people. Some people like to work with numbers. Some people like to build things. Some people like to draw things and paint things. Some people like to speak. Some people like to write. People have things that from an early age, they aspire to. And for me, I always had an inclination of sharing information on a coaching type of level. From the first day I walked into a karate school as a kid, whenever I was shown something, I always enjoy the process of showing it to people that have been there less time than myself. And, my artistic side of it, I've always been a creative person. I've been drawing and painting since I was a little kid, and I've never stopped. So it's like, again, for me, building things, creating things, and sharing information have always been part of my natural born skill set, and I identified that. When nobody came to me in my high school, none of my guidance counselors. I had one teacher who was like, I really don't care what it is you want to do. I'm just saying that whatever it is you want to do, that's what you should do. I had one person that was kind of like, you don't have to play the game. You don't have to go and do things that you're not going to be happy doing to just appease a bunch of other people. And that's the situation. You've got professional institutions that, they want kids to go to better schools so that they can market to the next wave of kids coming into their school saying, look how many kids are going to, better universities. Then you've got people that are, pushing college because they're part of the whole student loan racket where, yeah, they do want everyone to go to school because they want everyone to acquire debt so that the schools can make all their interest rates. There's a lot of politics and a lot of mathematics involved, but the thing is, you've got to understand that just because somebody is a teacher or a guidance counselor or even a principal or a vice principal or someone that's involved in the education system, it doesn't mean they know what you should do. You know what you should do. If you know early on that you want to be a professional and that's what you want to be, pursue that career. If you have no idea what you want to do, I would go out and get as much experience as possible so you don't waste your time and money and increase your debt. It's a real simple situation. So, I sit here and I've got these people telling me, it's really important that you go to school and you get your degree and you're not going to get a job and blah, 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 blah. I'm 42 years old. I don't have a college degree. My wife doesn't have a college degree. It's not like we both are not educated. We both went to college, but we didn't finish. My wife for different situation than myself, but my wife, she was switching majors left and right because she knew she wanted to work with people, but she didn't know how, so she was trying different things. And then when she got into the workforce, she started to really understand her position, and now my wife has a really good job, working for a really good company, makes very good money, has good benefits, and, is definitely discovered her self-worth through the working process, and she's brought value to everyone she's worked with, and that's why she gets the jobs. I don't even know if she's been asked directly about her educational background because everyone just sees her work background and says, wow, you're a performer, you produce. So that's why she continues to progress. And there's no limit to what she can do because she excels at the things she chooses to do. And excelling is the point. And then in my own case, it's the same thing where as long as I've been able to show value for my knowledge or my efforts, I've always been able to get by. There's nothing that stops me besides me. I've always had ideas, I've always had information, and I've always been able to communicate them, and that's what keeps me in the game. No one's coming to me and saying, oh, you didn't graduate school, so I'm not going to listen to you, because what I have to say has value. It's the whole concept, the same concept I've talked about before, where it's like, some people are like, oh, you should shave your beard, or, get a different haircut, or, cover up your tattoos because you don't want people to judge you. And I'm like, judge me on my information, don't judge me on my style choices. And I would expect the same of anyone. It's the information, it's the value. The value of what anyone has to say is not any less or more based upon, their education, their looks, their social situations. Information that's valuable is valuable. A dollar is a dollar. It doesn't matter what the dollar looks like. You could have a brand new dollar bill that's crisp, and you could also have a dollar bill that's, crumpled up and torn on the edges, and neither one of them has any less of a value. They're still a dollar, and they're still worth what they're worth, and you can take them anywhere and spend them the way you want. And that's the whole thing about personal value and understanding about your position in things. So if you have the ability to communicate in a way that's going to bring value into people's lives, they're going to pay you for that. They're going to support you for that because you're helping them support themselves. So this whole broken system of demanding education, demanding that we go into debt, or killing ourselves to get a piece of paper that we may never use, you've really got to take a step back and you've got to say, when was the last time you went to a young kid and respected them enough to have a conversation about, what do they deeply find interest in? And that was one of the main points in this conversation, was they were like, oh, when was the last time you met a 15 or 16-year-old who knew anything? And I'm like, look, you old fuck, you were 15 and 16 once, and you thought you knew something, but no one gave you the confidence to pursue it. You had everyone telling you what you should do. I'm sitting there with people that either didn't get degrees and went into the workforce directly, and now they're questioning education, which blows my mind. And then another that went and got an education completely in an opposite direction of where their life went, and they were told, you better go to college and you better go pursue whatever ideas that you have in your head now, because when you get into the workforce, you're just going to have to work and you're going to have to provide and you're going to do something else. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. No. From the beginning, we should be encouraging people to follow their dreams and aspirations so that they can live a more fulfilling life, which means when someone wakes up and they're doing what they want to do and they're filled with a purpose, they're just going to be better people in general. They're going to be happier. They're going to be more productive. They're going to put more efforts into their work. They're going to be, more supportive of the people around them. They're going to produce greater. They're going to work longer. They're going to work harder. And they're just going to find more satisfaction. And what's wrong with that? I don't understand why we have to force people into these molds and make them feel that you can't be yourself, that you have to be what the world wants you to be. And in truth, when you're in your teen years, in your early 20s, you do have a sense of the world needs you to be something. And it's not yourself. The message is not be you. But the funny part about it is the top 1% of successful people in every industry across the board, they're not plugging holes for other people. They're actually doing what they feel they were born to do. So these are the people that are fired up about what they do because, yes, they're pursuing what they feel they were born to do, which is just the most amazing feeling in the world. When you don't have to use an alarm to get up in the morning because you're excited about your day, because you're fully being yourself, that is the best form of payment and compensation in the world. You can give me a Lamborghini to go do something that I don't want to do, and it might be fun to drive that car for a couple of days, but I'm going to hate myself for it. I would rather struggle to maintain a certain lifestyle that I have control over versus, going doing what somebody else wants me to do, even though I may not agree or whatever. So again, the main point of all this is stop getting old in your mentality and stop disrespecting young people and stop acting like young people don't know anything or don't know what they want. And because they have phones and computers and video games and whatever, we all had our distractions. We've all from the beginning of time have had, the divide between youth and old people, because old people get old in their brain, not just in their bodies. I'm 42, but I work with a lot of young people, and I have a massive amount of respect for the young people that I work with. And the last thing you're going to hear me say is that these young people are any less than any generation that came before them. There's a ton of crap out there on the internet that says young people, or you see the meme where it's like, oh, this group of 18-year-olds stormed the beaches of Normandy, and this group of 18-year-olds is asking for safe zones. But you know what? Look at real history. For every soldier that stormed a beach, there was somebody that was protesting what they were doing. So we've had a divide always in the young, in the middle-aged, and the old. There's multiple sides to every situation. And you can create history any way you choose to fit any agenda that you want. But the truth of it is there's always been hardworking young people. There's always been a demand of young people internally, like, or a hunger to be accepted by those that have come before them. So instead of hating on them for being young and, giving into that sense that they're different, yeah, they are different because you're old now, but they are who you once were. So have some respect for what you were, and forget about this, oh, if I knew now kind of stuff. What you know now is that you wish somebody talked to you when you were younger. So instead of sitting here and dreaming, actually follow through and be that supportive person for youth. Go to young people and ask them what they want, and then be really supportive of what that is and help them figure it out. I mean, I told a story once before about I have a guy who works with me that was like freaking out because his daughter said she wanted to be Kim Kardashian. And I said, well, what did you want to be when you were young? He said he wanted to be a soccer player. And I was like, you didn't want to be a soccer player because you wanted to score goals and be the best soccer player. You wanted to make money in an alternative way that allowed you to, like drive cars and party hard and be famous. I mean, his daughter's the same thing. So, but it was a individual, it was an entrepreneurial attitude that made him want to be a soccer star. So what did he end up being? He wasn't good enough at soccer to play in a professional soccer league, but now he's an entrepreneur that owns his own business, and he has a really good life. He has a great wife, he has great kids, and he's in control of his own destiny because he runs his own business and whatnot. And his daughter's the exact same. She has the same opportunities that he did. Now, if he sits there and says she's stupid and says stop watching the Kardashians, you know what? She may end up being one of the Kardashians. But if he encourages that spirit that is driving her in that direction and nurtures the entrepreneurial attitude that a lot of people that are looking to be famous have, and then use that as a focal point as she develops and teach her how to find independence in everything she does, who knows what she'll end up doing. She may actually end up being an entertainer and being famous, or she can own her own business and she can, produce for herself and the family that she's going to create and hire people that are going to produce for their families and whatnot. So again, it's when you find yourself in that trap where you're hating on youth and, demanding of them these institutionalized things, ask first, what the hell do they want? And what you're asking them to do, does that fit into it? I know as parents, we worry about our kids and we just want them to be okay. But for me, I'm a dad. And the number one thing I want for my son is I want him to be happy and I want him to be secure. That's like the 1 and 2, which are probably both number ones. So it's like whatever he wants to be, I want him to be the best at it in a way that he's going to be able to take care of himself. I'm not going to sit here and crap on his ideas and say, no, you can't be that because it's not secure enough. Well, let him define what security is for himself. Let him define his own happiness. And it's my job to be there, to be supportive, not necessarily hold his hand because, sometimes you got to kick him in the ass as much as you got to hold their hand or as much as you got to give him a hug. But you always got to say, you know what, I believe in you and I believe that you can do whatever you want. And I believe that you can create whatever you want out of life. And it's not just for your kids, but it's anybody you work with. I mean, that's my attitude in general. Anyone I work with, I have mad love and respect for if they're fighting. The ones that I have no respect for are the people that have given in, going with the flow, have, quit on effort. So if you're in the struggle, you got my respect. And if, you're going to be hating on youth, not cool, man. You got to be for that 16-year-old the person you wish you had. And that's my message. It's not the first time I've said this, but it's just a little fresher because I did get into a little bit of a back and forth with some old people that forgot what it was to be young, and they lost touch with what it means to be happy and successful, as you're developing. So that's the message. That's the deal. I hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. And remember something here. The sacrifices that people made so that we can have these freedoms is one of the main reasons why this discussion is poignant. So have a good one.